Here are some thoughts on the MIE project we're doing together, the analysis of enhanced irrigation devices. So what we're trying to do is figure out whether enhanced irrigation devices do what they claim to do, and if so, under what conditions do they do it. But there's a problem in that we have no repertoire or reference images that an untrained person can access in their long-term memory that can help them with true positives, true negatives, false positives, and false negatives. So when you're looking at a case, for example, this is a laser case, most people have no repertoire of images that they can call upon to really tell them what they're looking at. So um, the solution is really what Rick came up with, is developing some pattern recognition for control cases so that when you do eventually look at these cases, you have something to go by. So I'd like to propose that we do this in 4 phases and that we develop some pattern recognition skills for these basic 3 types of cases. Cases where there was no instrumentation and only water irrigation, cases where there was no instrumentation and only sodium hypochlorite irrigation, and no instrumentation cases where there was sodium hypochlorite and EDTA irrigation. And after looking at those cases and developing some pattern recognition on what really control cases look like, then we'll go look at some conventional instrumentation cases, not MIE cases, but conventional with standard sodium hypochlorite and EDTA. And Pushback has sent me some of those cases. So we have them now. And when you eventually look at his cases, you'll have something to go by because you've had those control images in your memory. Then and only then will we look at enhanced irrigation devices of both the general wave and laser cases using standard irrigation. So this is how the control cases were prepared. We were able to use teeth and jar cases for those. And basically we took a tooth, extracted teeth, take a diamond disc, split the tooth buccally and lingually with a groove, and then split the case with a razor blade into 2 halves. And then we simply used water irrigation in the first control case, pulled the pulp out, took a Stropco with water, and just kind of flushed as much of the pulp out as we could. We used a nylon brush so that now you have an opportunity to look at the naked dentinal wall as it occurs, really as close to nature as possible. We did take some high resolution photographs so that we'll eventually compare these to the SEM images. And then we did this with water only, water and bleach, and water, bleach, and EDTA, and did imaging on those. And we're going to take those cases individually, one at a time. Next week, we'll do the water only phase. And by the time you're done with those cases, you will have developed some pattern recognition on what is normal and what is in these cases with really no instrumentation at all. And I think that it will really help you so that you don't have to rely on just my interpretation or anyone else's uh, interpretation. You know, just because someone has a PhD doesn't naturally mean that they actually know what they're looking at. And actually, in a lot of cases, we can point out they actually don't know what they're looking at. So um, these are just some of the examples of water, and then I'll show some simple examples of bleach, and then bleach and EDTA. And I think by the time we get to Pushpack's cases, you will have developed some fairly good discrimination on what you're looking at, and you won't have to guess or be totally confused. on these images. Obviously, to be really expert at this, you have to look at thousands and thousands of images, but Rome isn't built in a day, and you have to start somewhere. So this is where we're going to start. We're going to take Rick's idea. We're going to look at these control cases, and I'm hopeful by the end of this experience in looking at these control teeth that you'll have a lot more confidence um, in your judgment, and you'll be able to calibrate your judgment a little better. We're going to be, in this process, we're going to be talking about how mineralization occurs, the differences in the different areas, because the dentin looks different coronally than it does midroot, than it does apically, and also how mineralization occurs in predentin. That knowledge is going to be important in your interpretation.